G'day, welcome to Portsmouth This Week. I'm Jeff Richard, your host for today, and with me is John Klimm, our Town Administrator. If you got a chance to see our program last week, we had our canvasser and the EMA director on, and John took a bye on the week, but that was a great program.
It really
I hope
was.
if everybody got a chance to watch that, to see those folks who are experts and who we depend on, and they're very smart people, and we're lucky to have them. Anyway, John, you've had a really big week, and I suppose the most important part of it all is we're getting down to the end of the budgeting process. Can you tell everybody about how close we are to the end of this?
Well, Jeff, I think we could say we had another big week.
Okay.
There's been a number of them, but you're right. We are getting through the budgetary process. There's actually been 8 budget meetings thus far. The town council, to a person, takes their fiduciary responsibility very seriously. They understand that more than anything else, their primary responsibility as the legislative body is to pass an annual budget. And I'm really impressed at the seriousness and the comprehensiveness that every councilor takes this responsibility. So we've had 8 meetings. We originally had 3 subject workshops. We had a workshop on infrastructure and roads, where we all learned much more than we knew about the importance of implementing a long-range capital plan. And then we had a financial primer on some of the reasons why you need a fund balance and some of the other issues. And the third workshop dealt with our pension issue, and also we had a speaker from the League of Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns talking about state mandates. And so it's really been a journey for us so far. But last night, Thursday night, the town council began its more formal role by considering the adoption of a provisional budget. Our charter outlines a budgetary process where after some initial evaluation, that the town council needs to actually adopt a provisional budget. They thereafter advertise the budget and allow for a period of public input, culminating in June 13th, where there's an actual public formal meeting where any citizens can come and formally give their input to the town council. So, this budget process started almost when I got here in February, and it's been ongoing ever since. And when we begin to implement more formal budgetary processes, it's almost an annual process. From the time you close out your books in one fiscal year, you're really into beginning the budgetary process for the next year. And so the town council last night, in a rather lengthy meeting, Thursday night, began to consider the budget by budget. Before they did that, they got into a very interesting discussion about the tax cap and what their goals were in terms of the size, if any.
The current
increase.
state mandate is 4%?
The cap is 4%.
Cap is 4%.
And I presented a budget for a variety of reasons. I presented a budget that represents a 3% increase. And this really last night was the first opportunity for individual councilors to kind of let all of us know philosophically, I guess, where they are in terms of that issue. The real challenge that we face is that we're trying to do an awful lot this year, trying to correct some major issues that have been deferred in the past. The issue of the fund balance being drained, the issue of a lack of a capital plan, a roads program, or whatever, and other items. At the same time, I think everyone in the room is mindful that these are tough economic times. And there's a lot of Portsmouth residents that are unemployed, or they're concerned about the future employment, or they're underemployed. The future is uncertain, and so everyone is mindful that we should not just willy-nilly ask for tax increases, that every dollar that we ask for is coming out of someone's pocket, and that there are consequences. So that really is the debate that started last night, kind of a philosophical debate about where we want to end up. There was no closure to that. We'll continue.
So when is the closure going to have to come?
Well,
because I know that there's always going to be a difference of opinion.
Yes.
Some would say that 0 is the right answer.
Right.
Others would say that we just can't go to 0 because something will fail. And
right.
So it's not an easy decision.
It is not, but the the council statutorily has to adopt a provisional budget
By
by
when?
next Monday night.
Next Monday.
And so there's only one more meeting where
So if we want to call our councilmen up and influence their vote, we have to do it between now and Monday.
Well, that is true, but this is only for the provisional budget, and that's not the final budget.
Right.
So there is.
If we have to go meet at the middle school and.
Absolutely, or from Monday night to June 13th, there's adequate opportunity for phone calls, emails, letters, or other communication.
Right.
And I know that every counselor not only is expecting that, but wants that type of feedback.
Sure.
They want to do a good job. They want to represent the constituents, the residents of this town. And the more they hear from our citizens, the better off we are, and the easier their tough decision-making is. And so I hope that any citizen of this town that has an opinion on any aspect of the budget, and the budget, by the way, is on the town's website, so if citizens want to review it, that they reach out and contact their counselors, because they, as I said, every counselor wants to do a good job, and to do that they need the feedback.
How did the session with the school committee and the town council play out?
There was a meeting on Tuesday night where two items were discussed. First of all, the school budget itself. As you know, we've had a series of workshops where every department head was present to present their budget and to answer any questions, more information gathering than any votes being taken. On last Tuesday night, the school committee was up. The superintendent was there with the finance director and one or two of the school committee members. And it was more informational. It wasn't, they didn't get to a point where there was any indication whether the council liked or disliked the school budget. It was more question and answers. We also took up the item of the joint, there has been a decision by both the school committee and the town council to form a joint kind of finance committee to talk about putting together a 5-year plan so that we know what the expectation is on the issue of the tax cap.
I know that I was at the school committee meeting where the two representatives from the school committee were chosen.
Yeah.
Did the town council choose two representatives to be on that finance?
The council president has the authority to make those appointments, and I know that he is working hard to do that.
Okay,
I
so
believe
they
it's going to be
haven't been
next
met
week.
yet.
Yeah. And as soon as that's up and running, that is, there's really 2 or 3 major responsibilities. One is to put a 5-year plan together so that we know from year to year whether the expectation is that taxes won't go up, taxes will go down, if taxes go up, by how much or whatever. So we have a parameter, a framework, a financial framework to work from.
Who will provide the staffing needs of that group?
Both the superintendent of schools and myself. Okay. So they'll both be staffing from
so
the town and the schools.
So if they have a question comes up and they need an answer,
absolutely,
bang, they go to you folks. And
I think we can expect both the town's director of finance to be at probably most meetings and the school finance director as well. We're also going to begin to explore areas of possible collaboration or consolidation, especially in those non-education areas. You know, could we look at combining structures and grounds, or finance, or HR, or information technology? Those are the types of things where, you know, if we're going to go out to our taxpayers and ask for yet more money, you know, do we have a track record where we can at least say, you know, we've economized, we've made this operation more efficient or whatever, and all of us know that there's a ways to go before we
I think
get
that's
to
an
that
extremely valuable piece of information, because if you ask me to contribute $1 to something and you convince me that it's well worth the $1, I'm going to give it to you.
Right.
But if I don't know anything about it and you say, can I have $1, please? It doesn't sit well. So yeah, the more communication we have, I think the better off we are. How did the beach thing work out? How do we solve the beach?
Well, we were creative in solving that. As we know from discussions on the show several weeks ago, when I arrived here, I found that we had overspent last summer, and that we were looking at a situation of not being able to open the beach until the beginning of the next fiscal year, which is July 1st. Well, of course, people are already going to the beach now. And certainly by Memorial Day weekend, there's an expectation that they'll be able to use the facilities, and hopefully that there'll be lifeguards there to protect the youngsters and that type of thing. And so we had to, I had a choice to make. You know, I think I know now why it happened. And systems have not been in place that would stop the possibility of overspending, which is now the case. We have implemented or will be implementing a system so that the possibility of overspending will not be there in terms of a weekly allocation putting money aside for next May and June and the like. But coming from a coastal area and knowing that almost every other beach I've ever seen at least breaks even, if not is, in many instances, a big money maker. I know that for example, people hope, I think, that when they go to the beach that there might be a possibility to buy a hot dog or a hamburger or soda or whatever the case may be. And what we've done is we've allowed vendors to come in from time to time, but the town hasn't charged or there's been no system in place. So we put that service out to bid, and we had an individual that we had 18 to 20 people show interest, but because there's no track record of how much revenue you can make, there was a little hesitancy. But we did have a successful bidder, and they will have the right to be present 7 days a week. Or
yeah, I know. When I go to Easton's Beach, First Beach, there's an expectation I'm going to get a lobster roll, or a double lobster roll for some reason.
And so we're going to get some revenue from that, and that will cover the cost of with the money that's remaining in the account.
Is it possible that the consequences of time this resulted because we don't have a director of Parks and Recreation, nor do we have a Parks and Recreation committee in town, that it's sort of been the town administrator who has been watching over these little rice bowls? And is it time to help the cause in Portsmouth by creating such a committee?
I think the truth about Portsmouth, from my observation, is that this is a town that's run like a small town, but we're not a small town anymore. And so when you look, the residents of this town have been very clear that recreational opportunities are an important aspect of the quality of life. You look at the Glen properties, for example. But the fact is that there is no professional staff overseeing any of those activities. We don't run our beaches. I mean, people are surprised. People have been here for 20 years. I talked to a gentleman the other day that was surprised. They thought the town ran the beach, and we don't. We contract the service out. But there's no designated staff that's overseeing that. There's no business plan for the Glen properties, and so we charge certain activities, but there's no nexus between what we're charging and what it's costing us. There is no master plan. And so, I mean, one of the things that I know I have to work on over the next year are these enterprise activities. Our beach, our campground, the windmill, all of these activities, we have to make sure in place.
Standalones.
That there's a business plan in place that takes all of the aspects of the operation into consideration.
I heard Councilman Paul Kesson when the campground was presenting for its budget that he did have a comment on a business plan, whether or not they should rethink their business plan. And I said to myself, I wonder how many other enterprises in town actually have that kind of business plan. Does the beach have a business plan? And you're suggesting we don't.
We do not.
So.
But the good news is that there are a lot of interested parties that have contacted me that want to participate in that process. I mean, one thing that Portsmouth has, like other towns, there's a wealth of experience and knowledge.
Oh, absolutely.
I sat down with a gentleman the other day with just an incredible resume and background. He's now retired. But he came in for one simple reason. He said, John, I like the direction the town's headed now, and I want to offer my services. And I got talking about his background, an incredible background and experience or whatever. And that's an untapped resource. I think we can do much more. But at the end of the day, we have to answer the tough questions, like you said. Is it time to have a director of recreation? I know that the Charter Commission was an entity that debated that whole issue, that we have so many recreational activities, but no one really overseeing it from a staff standpoint. So
except you.
Except for me, right.
Which, amongst the many things that you have to do, that's just part of it. And,
yes.
So if people are coming into you all the time with their particular issues, then there's no staff to turn around to and say, well,
The good news, I think, is that we have tremendous assets through the leadership and foresight of the residents and citizens and leaders of this town in the past. I mean, the acquisition of the Glen properties, the beach properties that we own, the campground or whatever, we do have assets. That's the good thing. We just need to think about professionalizing the management, putting business plans in place and whatever. And so that's going to keep us busy over the next year or two.
Yeah. Can you talk just a little bit about the turbine? Turbine's made the news of late. So Where do we stand with our turbine?
Well, there's several issues. One was an immediate issue about why it is down. And Gary Crosby gave a very thorough explanation to the council that there is a sensor part that is...
Not the gearbox, thankfully.
It is not the gearbox.
Okay.
So we're not talking about a major expenditure, and the expectation is within the next day or two it will be back up and running. Got into a larger issue about the whole business plan for the windmill. The truth is that the amount of money that we receive from the utility is volatile. You know, sometimes we're getting 14 cents a kilowatt hour, and now we're getting 4 or 5 cents, and it's just it's a function of the market. And so there are times when the revenues aren't going to be as much as they are at other times. And so, you know, like other issues, we do have a business plan for the windmill. I think it needs to be reviewed. I think the vulnerability that we have right now is the possibility of a major failure. The truth is that a business plan was put together which assumed that for a period of time, since the equipment is new or whatever, that there wouldn't be a major
issue.
Absolutely, there were warranty issues to begin with, and that by the time the parts needed to be replaced, we would have paid off the note, and that, I mean, that's not a bad assumption. It's risky because you never know.
I guess the vote on buying a spare gearbox the majority didn't agree to do that right now.
That is correct. Staff
But we have no money.
well, that as well. But staff recommended that, in terms of research, against it, and the council agreed that I mean, someone just happened to call us up and say, you know, we happen to have some spare parts. Are you interested?
Yeah.
I mean, if we had the luxury of having a large capital trust fund, it might have been a wise expenditure, but we don't, and so I think the council was thoughtful in reviewing that, and that they made the right decision.
Yeah, we don't have any town people who are actually in the maintenance business. This is all contracted out.
That's correct.
So our knowledge about what's inside that thing would be very limited, I guess.
That's correct. We have to depend on experts in the field.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I suppose that's why they have businesses. But the company that built it and put ours up are not doing it anymore, as I understand.
Yeah, there has been some changes, but you know, I think that like the other operations that we mentioned, we're not in a crisis situation. But the thing is, we need to tweak it. We need to work to improve the business plan and the thinking and whatever. And we have a council that really wants to do that.
Super. Yeah, I don't know if there's a direct relationship, but the debate in the state over the East Bay Energy Consortium is to some extent tied to it. I think that we in Portsmouth have history in a matter of wind turbines, so that people will definitely be looking at you know, how we're approaching our business. Because if somebody says, okay, I'm going to have 12 more of these things, and oh, by the way, they're going to be another third higher,
right.
That's big business. I've detected certainly a huge debate that's going on in the state right now. I guess Senator Chris Sodiano, who originally sponsored the East Bay legislation, has taken his support away from it. There's a large dialogue going on, and I think people are going to focus on us. I think. What's going to happen next week?
Well, next week we have the final meeting on Monday night, where the council statutorily needs to adopt a provisional budget. We have some unfinished business. For example, the whole debate about the tax cap and where we want to end up needs to be answered. And a lot of thoughtful debate and discussion took place on Thursday night in that regard. And there's a difference of opinion, as you can imagine. A variety of councilors have different thoughts in that regard, and where we'll end up right now, we don't know. But we obviously have to know that in terms of passing a budget that's balanced. And so because of decisions that were made Thursday night, this weekend I have to cut another $203,000 from the budget. So I'm going to have a busy weekend this weekend.
To get to what percentage?
Just to get to the 3% that was the
that you originally
goal.
recommended?
Yeah. And if there is a desire to go under that, then of course we'd have to look at more cuts. And
so you're going to work this week instead of going fishing?
I am going to be working this
I just
weekend.
mentioned that because I was down on the Melville Park Committee, as you remember. Yesterday, DEM Fisheries put more fish into the ponds. So for anybody who likes to fish, both ponds, 1 and 9, got themselves lots of 2.5-pound fish.
I
so-
suspect with my work schedule, I'm going to have to go to the fish market to get my fish.
Well, I understand that, but that park is an incredible
It
asset.
really
and,
is.
I had to fight with the federal government because they have the keys to the fence that we have to go through to get the fisheries truck down to the lower pond. So it's always interesting.
It's an incredible asset that the town has. It really is.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great place down there. If all goes as you would like to have it go, and the decisions are made this coming week, the town gets to sit in the well, we usually go to Melville Auditorium.
Yes.
No, I mean the middle school.
Middle school, right.
Auditorium. And that's going to be on the 22nd. You
On
said?
June 13th.
On June 13th.
Yes. And so while we have been working for 2 months on the budget, it really is just beginning.
Yeah.
Because it begins with the adoption of a provisional budget, which is something that the residents can look at and comment on. And so, I expect there'll be a lot of changes, as there should be, in terms of review of this budget, and it'll be an interesting month. But for citizens that have an opinion, this is the time from Monday night on till June 13th to let us know, what their priorities are. Where they would like to see money added, where they would like to see it cut, or whatever. Any resident has the ability to email us, call us, stop by, write a letter. There's really a myriad of opportunities to let us know
Now
how
that
they
you've been
feel.
here to understand how our current budget is working itself out, do you have an opinion about how Tiverton just got through creating a relatively new system for them? But the papers were full of pros and cons.
Right.
Vote 1, vote 2, vote 3. In the typical Rhode Island way, we jump in and have a great debate, and then the vote came out, and it was darn close.
It really was. I mean, I actually ended up enjoying watching. I don't know
I did too.
people from Tiverton or whatever, but it was a spirited debate.
It was.
And it was interesting to watch the process.
Yeah. It's new to them.
Yes.
So they had what we had. They had the financial town meeting. We used to do that here in Portsmouth.
Right.
Then we went to the town council forum of budgeting, and personally, I think it's a much easier way to do this thing with the town council and professionals such as yourself in charge, trying to gather up in a meeting.
Well, the good old days must have been interesting, though, with these large
yeah.
gatherings.
Yeah, well, if they got large,
Yeah.
sometimes they were so
really?
few as a percentage of the voting population that it could be pushed one way or the other by a very small contingent of people who had special interests, which is the famous word, special interests. We all have special interests, at any rate.
Of course, the major discussion was the school budget, because it's
Yes, it
tough
takes up so
at
much
the
of
end
it.
of the day to get away from that, since it's such a large percentage of our operating budget. And so we had Tuesday night, we had the superintendent with the director of finance, the school director of finance there, with a school committee member. And last night we had the vice chairman, Jonathan Harris, from the school committee there. And there's obviously tough decisions that have to be made, so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Good. I think I probably asked it at one show before, with the few minutes we have left. We get the budget to bed. What is John Klimm going to do after that?
It isn't a matter of trying to figure out what to do. It's a matter of having a long list of possibilities and setting priorities. As we had mentioned earlier, I'm really intrigued at the need and the value of taking some of our operations and breaking them down into their basic components and putting together business plans that make sense. One of the issues that were argued last night before the council was the need for operational audits. And at the very time, yes, it did.
Yeah.
There was actually quite a bit of discussion about it. At the very time where we were looking to cut the budget, it's obviously always an awkward situation to be asking for money, something new.
Yeah. Did they understand the logic of that, do you think?
They did. You know, I spent time not only talking about the concept of it, but the practical application in my experience, that nothing in government is so well done that there is no room for improvement. Mm-hmm. So the question is, does it make sense to, from time to time, have an objective kind of outside entity come in that has a wealth of experience from other communities to review or evaluate an operation and to make recommendations.
So did you put something in the budget then to start the operational auditing process?
Yes.
With an outside auditor doing some in some department.
Yes.
In the
I mean,
town,
the million-dollar question is which department? Where do you start?
There you go.
And we talked about that a little bit last night. At the end of the day, though, over a period of, say, a decade, you should be trying to hit all of the major departments. And in my many, many years of supporting and overseeing operational audits, I think there was only one instance where there wasn't really any substantive commentary or money-saving recommendations. And so 90-something% of the time, we've been pleasantly surprised at the recommendations, the cost savings that far surpass the modest cost of the operational audit itself.
Okay. So over your time in the business, you've had opportunities to meet the companies and use the companies that have been doing this now for a long time. So you probably have in your little black book here somebody you can call straight away and say, hey, listen, put us on your schedule. I'd like you to come and do this.
Right. And we like to think ourselves as being unique, but the truth is there's 88,000 layers of government in this country. And so, you know, when we look at our assessing operation, it isn't that different than a lot of other communities or whatever. And the whole task here is to be able to learn from other communities that are facing similar challenges or whatever. So I'm kind of excited that the town council supported so strongly the concept, and I'm really hoping that you know, the residents fairly quickly will see the benefit of annually putting money aside for operational
Did you
audits.
sense that the town council would like to choose which operational audit to conduct first, or do you think that they'll let you sort of?
They asked the question. I
throw the
think they asked the question more out of just curiosity. Interestingly enough, they've already directed me to do an operational audit without providing the funding. You may recall about a month ago, an issue came up about assessing and the board of review and that whole issue. And I was directed at some point soon to conduct an operational audit. So that's one place that we have to think about starting, because they've already directed me to do that. But as I said, you could pick any. The other thing too is instilling in our workforce that an operational audit is a good thing. You know, people don't like to be criticized, and they don't like necessarily people looking over the shoulder. But more often than not, even the skeptical department heads in my past have come to understand that the purpose is not to criticize, or the purpose is not to embarrass. The purpose is to improve. And I've always said to our department heads, I don't care how long the list is of recommended improvements. That's not what is important. What is important is that we adopt the change.
We're out of time. Thank you, John, for sharing your week with us. This has been Portsmouth This Week, filmed here at the PEG Studio. Thank you for watching.
In 2012, Rhode Island's new voter ID law will go into effect. You're going to need to bring with you identification when you go to the polls to vote. A Rhode Island driver's license, a Rhode Island ID, a student ID, or any state or federal government issued identification card with a photo on it is sufficient to vote. If you do not possess one of those forms of identification, we will provide one to you for free for voting purposes only. For details, please call us at 222-2340.